The Rocket X has returned, but is it better? Or should they have left the formula like the 2? Today, we're comparing the Rocket X3 with the Rocket X2. What's up, everybody? I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad Bod, and you're watching Rad Dad Bod TV, where we review running shoes. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Rocket X3 versus the Rocket X2. And if it's your first time watching one of my videos, you may notice some timestamps below, so feel free to jump around to the various parts of this comparison. But if you do so, I'd sure appreciate if you come back, watch the full thing when you get a sec, because I put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And if you've been a viewer for a while, but you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please consider doing so today, turning on those notifications so you get notified every time I drop a new video. Now, quick plug before I get into this comparison, I had my charity bid accepted for the Tokyo Marathon, and now I need to raise about $4,000. Now, I'm going to commit at least $1,000 of my own dollars towards this charity, but I need to raise the additional $3 so I can run the Tokyo Marathon on March 1st, 2026. Now, so far, we've raised about $600 or so, but I could sure use some help raising the rest. Now, there's a couple of options. If you want to support, you can go ahead and use the GoFundMe link in the description below. You can donate directly through the channel using the thanks button below, or if you're in need of some running gear or running fuel, you can also use some of my affiliate links below, because I will be donating the commissions generated in June, July, and August towards charity. On top of that, any revenue I generate through YouTube will go towards the charity for June, July, and August. Now, quick disclaimers and disclosures for these shoes. I actually bought both of these with my own money. So either way, whenever I do receive running shoes from a brand, I'm not paid to do a review. I'm not given talk tracks, talking points. No one watches the videos beforehand. All thoughts are entirely my own. Now, talking about the intended use of these shoes, I've seen some people say that the Rocket X line is like their 5K, 10K line because they introduced the Cielo X1. But realistically, no, these are super shoes, and they are specifically designed actually to run the marathon and run fast. Now, that's not to say you can't use it for shorter distances, as I sure do as well, but that is how they are initially designed, is for the marathon itself. As such, that's how we're going to be talking about these shoes today. Now, from a price standpoint, they kept the price point the same for the X3. So the Rocket X2 retailed at $250, and the X3 is also retailing at $250. So really nice to see, even a couple of years later, that they're keeping the pricing consistent. And you also do have, obviously, the Cielo X1 line, which is going to be a little bit more premium at $275. Now, from a specs perspective, the shoes also are fairly similar in specs. So the Rocket X2 comes in at 7.5 ounces, which is 212 grams, and then the X3 is slightly lighter at 7.4 ounces, 210 grams. So about the same in overall weight. Now, from a stack height perspective, the Rocket X2 came in at 37 in the heel, 31 in the forefoot for a 6mm drop. Meanwhile, the Rocket X3 is 40 in the heel, 33 in the forefoot for a 7mm drop. So not a ton taller, but a couple of millimeters taller, a couple of millimeters of foam. Now, from a fit perspective, the Rocket X2 fit true to size lengthwise. You know, I would say you probably don't need to half size up or down in the shoe. I think if you are leaning one way, I would probably half size up though. And then from a fit perspective throughout the shoe, you're looking at a fairly roomy overall heel. Then I would say that there's a probably like an average, if not snug midfoot, and then a normal overall toe box fit. Now, with the Rocket X3, you're gonna have that same kind of more snug midfoot feel. Lengthwise, true to size, I don't think that you would need to size up or down unless you have really wide feet, in which case you may size up just for the width perspective. And then I would say it has a standard to narrow heel and then a standard overall toe box. Moving to the uppers, what's interesting is although the Rocket X2 is, you know, probably fits about the same, it's a lot harder to get on. And one of the reasons is because this upper is just really not very flexible. And especially when you're sweaty, it can get a little bit sticky. Now, what it is, it's a technical synthetic mesh, right? And then you do have some light cushion and then almost like a suede-like material to give a little bit of comfort and reduce any friction there. And then you have a very thin kind of synthetic tongue. Now, the tongue itself is fully gusseted, which is really nice. It doesn't really stretch a ton, so again, you're gonna be locked in there pretty good. It's difficult to get on, but once you're in there, you shouldn't shift around. The material itself is a little bit harsh on the feet, right? In fact, the other pair has blood kind of on the toe there. And so again, it's a standard toe box, but it does curve in a little bit there where it may rub kind of on your pinky toe area or your ring toe. But yeah, that's where you're gonna feel it. But all in all, I do feel like the shoe is nice and comfortable. It's just a little bit harsh if you do end up rubbing in some areas. Now, I will say it's breathable for the most part, but it does trap a little bit of that sweaty feel. So it's one of those shoes that you're not gonna necessarily overheat, but I do feel like you sweat quite a bit in the shoe. Now, the Rocket X3 has changed the upper quite a bit. You have a more traditional structured heel, and then you get kind of that curvature there with the flare, and you have some lighter, some light cushion, a little bit more cushion though than the Rocket X2 provides. Now, what's nice with this is you get some really, really good heel lockdown. You reduce the possibility of any like blistering, rubbing hot spots in that area. And then you have the single layer mesh throughout the rest of the upper, which is going to be very, very breathable. And I do think it is more breathable overall than the Rocket X2. At the very least, it's a lot easier to put on the shoe. The tongue is not gusseted though, and it's this light cushion kind of knit material, which, you know, is comfortable, but I don't understand why we don't make all tongues gusseted in 2025. It's not specific to Hoka. A lot of brands don't do it, and I just don't understand why. But for the most part, I do think it's a lot more breathable. I think it's more comfortable, but it's maybe not as streamlined. I do still think you get some good lockdown as the midfoot area is a little bit snug in the upper. Now, moving to the midsoles, the Rocket X3 updates and gives us a dual layer PIBA. It's going to be a little bit firmer PIBA, though still very soft and plush in the bottom. You have a soft, squishy PIBA, more responsive, softer up there up top. And then you have a carbon fiber plate that is a winged plate, which is supposed to help with some stability for the most part. Now, this shoe overall is very soft, very plush. Meanwhile, with the Rocket X2, you have a PIBA midsole, and it's almost a firmer PIBA. It almost feels like that bottom layer. But so when I say firmer, like compared to the super squishy PIBA, this is still very soft, it's still very plush. And when it was released, it felt like a super cushion, super shoe. So, it's still very soft. And then you have a carbon fiber plate again that runs through this. It's not a winged plate, it's just a standard carbon fiber plate. Now, between these two shoes, I do feel like the Rocket X2 is more rigid. I think it's more snappy, and it feels significantly closer to the ground. On top of that, the Rocket X3 is just like a very, very bouncy overall sensation. What's interesting is between the two, I think that the Rocket X2 feels faster on foot, but it gives you less protection underfoot as well. So, if you're looking for overall comfort, bounciness, kind of aid to your stride, then the Rocket X3 might be the move. Being so close to the ground though, the Rocket X2 feels, fast, it feels nimble, it feels snappy, and I actually think it feels more stable. I think both of them are technically pretty much as stable as the other, but I do feel like, again, you have a lot more foam, so there's a lot more squish underfoot on the Rocket X3. With the Rocket X2, you feel closer to the ground. It's not quite as squishy of a foam, and so it just feels a little bit more secure, right? I think both of these are a good option, but I think most people who are looking for stability in a running shoe oftentimes are also looking for the comfort. So if you want a good blend of stability and comfort, that's where the Rocket X3 is going to win out in that comparison. But overall, Rocket X2 feels faster, feels snappier, feels more nimble, feels closer to the ground, feels more stable. Rocket X3, bouncier, more dynamic, a lot more comfortable, right? Maybe a lot smoother as well. Moving to the outsoles, you have good rubber coverage. One thing I appreciate from Hoka is they always put good rubber coverage on their shoes. Now, I think both could do to go a little bit thinner. A lot of brands are really, really cutting back on the rubber in the outsoles just to save some weight, because the rubber obviously does, it does add a good amount of weight. For the most part, the X3 has a sticky rubber compound, and then they called it a durabrasion rubber in the Rocket X2. I have done really, really well with both of these shoes as far as wet roads, so I have no complaints on either of them. Now, the Rocket X2, I have significantly more wear and tear. I think I have like 80 miles on these or something along those lines. If not, I actually might have over 100 or something on these, because I really, really, I got these long before I was reviewing as many shoes as I am today, so I put a lot of miles on these actually, so I actually think I have a lot more. But from an outsole durability standpoint, it's holding up really, really well. Rocket X3, I kind of expect the same. Now, as far as my pick between the two, it's kind of the same dilemma as the Cielo X1 versus the Rocket X3, because the Rocket X2 is, yes, this is the natural progression with where super shoes are going or running shoes are going nowadays, but it is a pretty big update to me. And you know, you lose a lot of the snap and nimbleness of the Rocket X2. So like, I have gotten 5K PRs in the Rocket X2. I don't think I'd consider using the Cielo or the Rocket X3 for 5K. It's not that it wouldn't work. I mean, I'm going to do repeats in it tomorrow, but it's just, if you running a 5K, especially on a track, I want something a little bit more nimble. So I think if you're looking for more of a versatile racer, if you're not going to be racing up to the marathon distance, if you want something that's not super plush, then the Rocket X2 is going to be a better option. I don't know if you can still get this on sale. It's been a couple of years, so, you know, TBD there. But the Rocket X3, I think, is going to be the pick for the marathon. If you're looking at these two shoes, you know, I just think I wore the Rocket X2 for a half marathon, and my feet were pretty tired, pretty sore afterwards. They were kind of cramping up. And so I think I probably would need a little bit more bounce for the marathon. So I would go with the X3 in that scenario. You know, just some final thoughts. Really cool to see Hoka finally introduce the third version of the Rocket X2. The Rocket X2 is one of my favorite super shoes ever. Really like how it balances stability, speed, bounce, comfort. Like, it was a really good all around super shoe. The Rocket X3, again, like I said, the natural progression of the Hoka super shoe, right, and super shoes in general. More squish, more bounce, more foam, but it's a good update. It's a good update, it's just different. So if you watched this far, I sure appreciate you. Let me know in the comments what you enjoyed about today's video, what I could be doing better to make these even more enjoyable for each and every one of you, and what comparisons you'd like to see. On top of that, again, last plug, you know, if you have the means and are able to donate to the Tokyo Marathon Charity Foundations, please consider using the links below, or any of the means, whether that's using the thanks button or buying yourself something, getting some running fuel, some running gear. Utilizing those affiliate links below are going to give me a kickback, which I will be donating towards charity. So just to wrap us up, I'll leave you with a question, which is, are you happy about the update to the Rocket X3, or do you feel like they changed it too much? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks, everybody.